this? What are you doing? And they didn't tell you anything that they seem to have done to grow the economy. Why make such a big deal about it if you haven't actually got something to trump about?
A tense interview unfolded when a television host challenged a government minister during a live broadcast, leading to widespread discussion online. The exchange began almost immediately after the interview started, with the host questioning several of the minister's responses. Welcome back to UK Ago. The moment gained significant attention because of how directly the host addressed concerns that many viewers often express regarding political interviews. The context was Budget Day, with the government preparing to present its latest financial plans in Parliament. The minister, attending the program to outline the government's position and expectations, was met with firm questioning the moment he attempted to steer the conversation towards standard talking points. The host asked a simple question about how the budget was being viewed internally and what objectives were hoped for. Instead of answering directly, the minister began by stating he could not disclose the contents of the budget. The host clarified that the question was about general expectations rather than confidential details and pressed him to respond accordingly. This led to a broader conversation about the practice of information being released to the media prior to the official budget announcement. The host pointed out that various elements of the budget had already been widely discussed in news reports, noting that leaking or pre-briefing has long been a feature of budget periods. Viewers familiar with the political cycle often observe this pattern. Early disclosures to the press, followed by ministers maintaining that all details must remain undisclosed until the official presentation. During the interview, the minister acknowledged that certain pieces of information had appeared in the press before the formal release, describing some of these as unhelpful. However, the host argued that the scale of reported material extended beyond occasional leaks, raising questions about the effectiveness of presenting the budget as confidential. The discussion then shifted to public perception of political leadership. The co-host referenced polling data suggesting declining approval ratings for senior government figures. This was presented in a factual manner, noting that the figures reflected current public sentiment. The co-host also mentioned speculation circulating among members of Parliament regarding the stability of leadership roles. When asked whether he supported the current leaders, the minister affirmed that he did, stating that the government remained committed to its policy agenda. Attention then turned to a newly announced measure involving taxation on packaged sugary drinks. The government stated that the purpose of the policy was to address concerns related to public health, particularly issues linked to high sugar consumption. The host questioned the consistency of the policy, noting that the tax applied to certain supermarket products but not to similar drinks sold in cafes or coffee shops. He asked the minister to explain how the measure aligned with its stated health objectives if similar beverages in other settings were not included. The minister responded by saying that the policy formed one part of a broader initiative aimed at encouraging healthier product manufacturing. He pointed to the wider context of health challenges and their impact on the healthcare system and the economy. However, he did not provide a direct explanation for why the tax differentiated between packaged supermarket drinks and drinks prepared in cafes. This portion of the exchange drew significant attention online, with many viewers focusing on the question of policy consistency. As the interview progressed, it became increasingly clear that the host aimed to highlight the difference between prepared political statements and direct answers to specific questions. Rather than moving on when the minister responded in general terms, the host repeated his requests for clarity. This approach differed from a more typical style of political interviews, where brief, broad answers often go unchallenged before the discussion shifts to another topic. The moment resonated strongly with audiences because it reflected a common frustration, that political communication frequently relies on rehearsed phrases rather than straightforward explanations. The interview illustrated the tension between political messaging and public expectations for transparent, detailed reasoning behind government decisions. It also highlighted the challenges broadcasters face when trying to obtain concrete answers in real time. The broader significance of the exchange lies in what it reveals about current political communication. Many viewers feel that government representatives often avoid precise responses, opting instead for generalized talking points. The host's approach, which directly challenged this pattern, led to reactions across social media in which people expressed appreciation for a more insistent line of questioning. Others noted that the minister was attempting to follow standard communication practices and faced unusually firm pushback. Beyond the immediate exchange, the interview serves as an example of how public expectations are shifting. Viewers increasingly expect detailed explanations for policy decisions, particularly when those decisions affect daily life, taxation, or public services. The reaction to this interview demonstrates that audiences respond strongly when someone articulates concerns that are already widely felt, especially regarding transparency and accountability. The situation also raises questions about how government representatives prepare for high-profile interviews. Traditional strategies often involve anticipating broad questions and responding with structured, pre-approved statements. However, when interviewers challenge these approaches more directly, the limitations of such preparation become more visible. This dynamic encourages a reconsideration of how political communication is handled, particularly in an environment where media clips spread rapidly online and public reactions can amplify key moments within hours. In summary, the interview became widely discussed not because of any personal conflict, but because it captured a moment in which expectations for clarity, accountability, and consistency collided with established communication habits. Viewers shared the clip because it represented a demand for more direct engagement in political discussions. The incident highlights the ongoing tension between public expectations and political messaging, and it reflects a broader conversation about transparency in government communication.